Ha, S-word, do your thing. S-word, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S-word, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S-word, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with fans. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel it how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Sworks. Action no Taylor the killer verse. I doing my foot in my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kids. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is it's work. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S-Works handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't for the none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky is the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S-word, do your thing. S-word, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S-word, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S-word, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with fans. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel it how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Sworks. Action no Taylor the killer verse. I doing my foot in my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kids. We the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is it's work. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S-Works handle business.
Social works, social works,
now, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Giants the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Sworkshops are a series of online workshops featuring the many incredibly talented friends of SocialWorks. This series aims to inspire and educate, bringing local and national creatives live to your smartphone. They will be sharing and teaching specific aspects of their craft. A wide variety of professions, interests, and hobbies are represented within our curriculum. Did we mention it's a fundraiser too? The stay-at-home notice has students wondering what's to come. For some, graduation and prom will both be canceled. This campaign will directly fundraise a celebration event for those students within the Chicagoland area. Once it's safe, of course. Tune in to any of our socials for one or all of the Sworkshops. You can find the full schedule of programming at SocialWorksShy.org or on our Instagram. Classes start Monday, April 13th. We'll see you there. Hi everyone, I'm OJ. Welcome to my studio. Thank you SocialWorks for doing this, the Sworkshops. I've watched a couple of them so far this week. I watched Peter Cottontails. Shout out Peter, he put out an album today. I've listened to it one time through. I'm going to listen to it the rest of the day after we get off the filming of this workshop. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I hope there's a good many of you out there tuning in right now. We'll have questions going on the website, which is socialworksshy.org/Sworkshops. Also, this is a fundraiser. So if you would like to donate, please donate there as well. Anyways, we're here to talk about art today. And before we get started, I would like to talk about some supplies that you're going to need for today's exercise. And it actually is very simple. You are simply going to need some paper and a variety of art supplies, whatever you've got around. Pencils, markers, crayons, any type of paper as well. Notebook paper, computer paper, scrap paper, napkins, anything that you've got. We're not going to really be doing anything on computers today. We'll be talking about some digital art, but for the most part, we're going to be doing some creative brainstorming, creative thought. We're going to be doing a lot of thinking and sketching and drawing today. Paper, the importance of paper. A lot of times nowadays, this being a digital world that we live in, people make notes in their phones, and I do that too. A lot of people, everybody does that. However, when you're using your phone or any type of digital thing, there's a filter there that doesn't necessarily allow your thoughts to come out as fast as possible. It's a phone, you have to protect it. It's a computer, you can't get it wet. If you're writing on paper, it's just paper. It's very frivolous. It's inexpensive. You can just get your thoughts out immediately. There's a million aspects of why paper is important, and working on paper is important. Throughout this class, I want you to draw the whole time. the entire time. Like, even if you don't know what to draw, just scribble. Just be scribbling on the page. Keep making marks on the page constantly throughout the whole class. Just keep making marks the entire time. These drawings do not need to be good at all. We're not grading you on your drawings. This is something personally for you. I just want you to draw throughout this entire workshop. There's no pressure. Try pushing yourself. There's no real pressure to I'm not going to make you draw the whole time. I'm obviously not even in the same room as you, so it's not possible. But whenever you don't have to force yourself, but also push yourself a little bit. If you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, you'll be able to expand your comfort zone. Just draw a little bit longer, a little bit more than you'd like. And if you don't know what to draw, just keep drawing, keep scribbling, going over lines, adding words. If you don't know, just write, I don't know, over and over again. But just keep your pen moving, keep whatever type of art supplies you've got, markers, crayons, paint, whatever, it all works. Personally, if I were doing this, I would be using something that dries relatively quickly, whether it be pen or markers, pencils, that type of stuff. Paint, you're going to have to sit there and wait for the paint to dry. We need this to just be a little more instantaneous than planned out. That's why it's light. It's having a pencil, having a pen, being able to just quickly sketch this. That's the point. Draw fast, attack the page. Attack the page over and over and over again. Pretend like nobody will ever see these drawings, not even you. Pretend like you're going to put them away and not even look at them ever again. That's how much pressure I want you to put on these. This is a drawing that you and no one else will ever look at ever again. So there's absolutely zero pressure involved in this. Exactly what I'm talking about, this drawing, scribbling, everything, this was an essential part of my schooling, my education. When I was in elementary school, middle school, I found a lot of traditional classes to be extremely boring. And I pretty much had way too much energy all the time, was disrupting the class, distracting the teacher, other students, or a problem that I still kind of have, I fall asleep and then I'm sleeping in classes. So throughout school, pretty much all the schooling that I ever did, I would sit and I would scribble in my notebooks, drawing the whole time. Whatever class we were in, I would be drawing, scribbling over and over and over again. My notebooks were covered top to bottom, front to back, scribbles, whatever subject it was, whatever we were talking about in general in the class, that notebook, I would translate my notes into drawings and sketches. And that would allow my brain to carve out my thoughts through my hand and put them on the paper. And while we're talking about math, science, whatever we're talking about in school, I now have these drawings that I'm making while I'm listening to the lecture. And I could remember a lot of the stuff a lot easier just by connecting it to the stuff that I was drawing while we're talking. It also would keep me awake throughout class. It would keep me, it was a way for me to channel my energy into a way that wasn't disrupting the class. And it also was keeping me engaged in a way that was keeping me awake and I wouldn't be sleeping through class. So that's where this whole idea comes from. Hopefully you drawing on the page today will help you remember some of the stuff we talk about. That's all. The importance of paper in the brainstorming session. That's pretty much what this is overall. If you're using your phone or digital anything to make notes or drawings or whatever, it still is a digital disconnect. And when you have the paper and you're able to I look at paper and I think I can run freely on this. I can get my thoughts out on the page and see them in a visual way, in their most simple, purest form, a simple sketch, And it would allow me to see the strong points and the weak points of the idea straight from the start. Before developing out an idea and spending all this time and energy, I could see the strong points and the weak points before we really got going. So that's another huge part of the working on paper. Another big part of it is finding the paper, finding the books, the notebooks that inspire you, that you like. Everyone is different, and everyone likes different stuff. And this, in the same vein as that, there's tons of notebooks and tons of styles of paper and tons of art supplies and markers, writing utensils, all of that. And so when you find a notebook, when you find a pen that is your notebook, is your pen, when you find your favorite pen, and you can't let go of it. You can't let anyone borrow it. You can't risk losing it because that's the only pen that you want to write with. And then you end up getting another pen that's bogus, and you feel uninspired and you don't want to write at all. That's the idea of this. I find having a variety of different notebooks. I like the small ones that I can keep in a front pocket or jacket, a pocket notebook, just so that when I'm out and I have an idea or I get bored and waiting on someone, I could do a little sketch, do a little drawing. There's the medium-sized notebooks. For a while, these were my favorite, the hardbound moleskin, pocket in the back, the ribbon. I loved those. I burned through those for a while. Currently, I'm on much taller, bigger notebooks, and they're flexible. For me, I find the bigger notebooks, the bigger the notebook, the bigger the page. It's like having a huge yard and letting your dog loose, and it just wants to run crazy over the yard. If you got a little yard, it'll run crazy, but if you got a big yard, it'll just be going all over the place and spending all its energy. That's how I want to feel when I'm getting my ideas out onto the paper. Is they don't need to be good. None of this needs to make any sense to anyone. These are ideas, and I'm trying to get them down onto the page as fast as possible. Anyways, now that we got the materials and all that out of the way, let's actually get started. Like I said, my name is OJ. I've been an artist pretty much my entire life. These are some drawings from when I was young. I pretty much just like drawing cartoons and animals. Not too entirely much has changed. I still do draw all of these things, and I still make cartoons, which got me into, once I discovered animation, I'd been drawing pretty much my entire life. And so then I got into animation and I started to see my drawings move. And that for me was a whole other thing. And that was where I feel like my artwork really started to take off, and where I felt inspired, and I felt really proud of the work that I was making. This is a great animations that I made when I was younger, learning how to make animations, loops. There's a lot of different styles here. Let's see where we're at. This is stop motion with pretzel, stop motion with dry erase. Got live action with hand-drawn animation over top here. These are layered live drawings, recorded drawings that I then took and layered over top of each other. This is simple stop motion in real life, walk cycles, Post-it note, flip books. This is a lot of my early stuff, so don't judge me by these. These are fun animations I was making when I was learning how to do animation. Since then, I've grown my craft a lot. I've developed animation in a lot of different directions. I made these animated skating birds a couple years ago. I recently repurposed them in this graphic, Big O, which I use for myself. Recently repurposed them to make kind of a animated logo of sorts. This is an animated frame from another lecture that I do, another creative thinking lecture that I do called The Theory of Aim and Focus. I recently animated this frame. Figured I would throw it in here, show y'all what I've been up to in the meantime. I've been meaning to do a hand-drawn earth spinning for a while due to more free time and the quarantine lock-in. I finally have been able to work on a lot of artwork, a lot of my own projects, and I finally made this one, got it out of the road. A couple years ago, 2012, when I first moved to Chicago, I was very, very fortunate and started working with Chance Camp and Chance the Rapper. That's actually why I'm here today, starting to do artwork with Chance. This is a variety. This isn't even close to all, but this is a variety of different show posters and tour branding that I've done throughout the years, ever since the first headlining Chance tour, which is up here, Social Experiment Tour. I've done a lot of merch, artwork, t-shirts, hoodies, hats. These are the hats with the White Sox. There's myself, Chano, Pat. Shout out Big Pat from a couple years back when the White Sox hats came out. I also have been involved with a lot of aspects of the live shows, from animations to clothing to a wide variety of stuff. I've been involved with Chance Camp since 2012, doing a lot of art. I'm not the only artist involved. There's actually a lot of incredibly talented artists as well involved. Shout out Brandon. Brandon has done a lot of the cover art, majority of the classic Chance mixtape cover art. Shout out Nico Washington. He's done a variety of stuff. Dre Sanchez. There's been a variety of Nola Sanderson, Sarah Shaquille did the new record cover. While we're on this frame, shout out Bob. I know you can hear me now. Bob is someone that I work very close with in the video world of this. Shout out Mikey as well. It's just his birthday a couple days ago. And Chance's birthday yesterday. Shout out Chance. Happy birthday, Chance. Happy birthday, Mikey. Shout out Bob. Anyways, working with Chance Camp since before SocialWorks was even a thing, got me involved with doing artwork for SocialWorks, and that is why I'm here. I actually did all the branding for the Sworkshops, which is a fundraiser. Donate online, socialworks.org/Sworkshops. But yeah, I've done all types of branding for SocialWorks, from all the open mic posters to Night at the Museum to having a hand in a lot of other things. But yeah, I do a lot of artwork in Chicago. I do a lot of artwork in Chance Camp. I do a lot of stuff with SocialWorks, Uprise. Shout out Uprise, Skate Shop. Anyway, some more recent works. I've been doing a lot of animations that interact with paintings. And so this piece here is called Free Skate Live. This is what the original animations of the birds were for. These are 9 physical original watercolor paintings that then have the skating birds animated, projecting over top. They're then controlled by this MIDI controller, which, shout out Bob. I learned all my live video skills from Bob Z, who is on the line here somewhere. But this is one of the stronger pieces. This is what the birds were originally for, that animation I showed a few moments ago. This is what those bird animations were originally for. It's for this piece, which is actually nine separate animations, 9 separate paintings that all have the animations projected, animating over top. This is a show that I had last year. A lot of the paintings, a lot of the live paintings that I've done. This is one of the lectures that I did. I've been doing a lot more creative thinking and educational stuff with kids and SocialWorks and CPS, After School Matters, Vans. I've been working with a lot of kids. It's been great. I'm actually trying to do a lot more of this stuff. I'm going to be putting up tutorials, different aspects that you'll be able to follow kind of throughout from here and moving forward. This is a animation workshop I did with kids. I've done a lot of these. This is called Exploring Motion. This is one of the dry erase stop motion animations. This is full frame, meaning that the animation itself is not cropped in, so you can obviously still see all the people that were involved, that were there helping draw. A lot of little kids and families. This was a really fun day, but I've been doing these a lot recently, and I'm going to continue to do more. Most likely there will be one with SocialWorks coming up, so stay tuned. This is an animation that I made on dry erase board with a bunch of my friends. This is the same style as the video you were just seeing, only instead of having the full frame video where you could still see the people, it's just cropped in on the edges of the dry erase board. So it looks like a full animation. There's some other effects and whatnot on there. This is one of the live pieces that I did. I actually did this at another fundraiser that SocialWorks did last year for the KLK summer camp. But this is painting. It's yellow, red, and blue. And then everything else is projected animation that's interacting over top. You can't hear the music right now, but all of the animations are timed out with the music. I'm controlling it over top while the video. This is all in-camera video, this full piece. And so actually, this piece actually sold last year and raised money for SocialWorks in the KOK camp, which this workshop that you're watching currently is a fundraiser. So if you would like to donate, please head over to socialworksshy.org/Sworkshops and donate, or check out the full schedule over there. So anyways, this is actually what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. Color 101, teach you some basics of color, teach you the ways that some very simple ways, like color can be very complex, yet color can be very simple. And you can know a couple of very basic rules and go a long way with it. So let's get started. Color 101. So color 101 is primarily about color relationships and the way they work with each other. There are lots of different types of relationships, and the more you know about them and the way that colors interact together, the more in control of color you'll feel as you're creating different artworks. So when you know the basic color rules, you're able to use them to your advantage, how to use the rules. You also are able to break the rules and use them to your advantage. That's a great part about art. I like to also think of this in the way that a lawyer would know the rules so well, know the law so well, to the point where they're able to break the rules to work in their benefit. That's kind of the way that an artist uses color, uses a lot of things. But when you know the rules, you know how to creatively break the rules. And so whether you're following the rules or not, it's going to help your artwork. If you're just in there throwing color up and hoping that things work, it might, but it also might not. When you know the rules and you know how to use them and make them work to your advantage, or how to break them and create a different attitude or energy of your piece, it's going to help you. Color, moods, and emotions. So every color, humans have a certain set of emotions tied to each color. And, you think about it, we got red. Red is typically representing danger, emergency, red alert, red flag, hot water, blood. Even when you see the sight of blood makes humans anxious and scared. It evokes a certain energy, and that's what colors do. And when you see red, it's only used in certain ways, and it typically is used in a lot of these ways. Next, we've got green. Green is a very relaxed color. Green, I think of green light, I think of grass, I think of trees, I think of good to go. It's very chill, nature, it's calming. Green is a calming color. It's the opposite of red. Blue. Blue is a very calm color as well. It's a very relaxed color. I think of cold water. I think of the blue sky. I think of blue water. I think of ice. I think of frozen. But that's blue. Yellow, yellow is warmth. Yellow is happiness. Yellow is connected to sunshine. Think of all the analogies you've heard, whether it be in music, whether it be any walk of life. Yellow is typically used in a happy, warm way. These are the primary colors. Here we've got red, yellow, blue. These are basically the three main building blocks of color. Everything from here branches out. So you could take these three colors plus black and white and theoretically get any color you could possibly imagine. Like I said, these first three colors are called the primary colors. Then when you mix them together, the colors that they then create are the secondary colors. So the primaries would be red, yellow, and blue. And as you mix them, the in-between colors would be the secondary colors. And you can then mix beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. And there are some mixing rules. If you go too far away, if you're trying to mix two colors that are side by side, you're basically going to get the middle ground of those. If you try to mix two colors that are too far apart from each other, odds are you're going to get what's just typically in the art world described as mud. You'll know it when you see it. It's just a mix. It's just a mud. It's not a nice, rich brown. It's just a very dull, flat mud. And then, if you mix colors from across the wheel too far away, you will get mud. Complementary colors this is what they would typically refer to as the 6-color wheel, having the three main primary colors and then the three secondary colors bouncing off of it. So orange and blue directly across the wheel from each other, complementary colors. So each time you turn, we've got green and red, purple and yellow, blue and orange, complementary colors. When you put complementary colors side by side, they have an extreme contrast and they really tend to pop. That's there are lots of other tricks and ways of making colors pop, but pretty much the easiest one is putting two contrasting complementary colors side by side so you can see that extreme color pop. Color contrast. So color contrast is exactly what we were just talking about. It's two colors side by side. And so in these 4 blocks, there's only red, yellow, and blue. There are 3 colors. However, there's a relationship that happens when the yellow is completely surrounded by the blue. There's a relationship that happens when the yellow is completely surrounded by the red, and then vice versa. So think about the color contrast as you're working. What colors are you putting side by side, and how do they make you feel? Do they look good together? Do they work well together? Are we putting these colors together randomly? Are we putting them together strategically? Every piece is different, but color contrast is definitely something to keep in mind while you're working on your stuff. We also have brightness and contrast. When I talk about color contrast, a lot of people end up asking questions about brightness contrast. And brightness and contrast are typically associated together. The brightness and the brightness is how bright something is, whether it's either bright or dark. The contrast is the amount in between the two colors, the amount Is it a very subtle difference that makes them very similar, or is it an extreme difference like black and white? An extreme high contrast would be black up next against white. And then low contrast would basically be two middle ground grays that are hardly even separate from each other. And so brightness and contrast together are typically used in any digital art. Photoshop, Procreate, Illustrator, these terms are usually linked together, and they're typically linked together in digital illustration programs. But when I bring up color contrast, a lot of times people bring up brightness contrast, and they are similar in a way, but they're also very different. So I figured I would make the distinction between the two right then and there. Hue and saturation. So hue, as you can see, these are Photoshop menus as well. So hue and saturation, the hue is actually the color that you're using. And so these are two separate windows, and here the hue is represented on this bar, and over here the hue is represented on this bar. It's basically choosing the overall color that you're looking to select. Saturation is basically how bright that color is. Over here, you can see the saturation over here all the way white, fully saturated all the way to as bright red as it could possibly be. That being represented over here in basically an imaginary line going this way. White, completely desaturated, full red, complete saturation. So hue and saturation are classic color terms that have been used forever, but in the same way with a lot of this terminology, it translates over directly into learning how to work digitally. So as you're learning to not only draw, make things physically, not only as you're sketching, drawing, making art physically in the traditional forms, as you start to bring things into the computer, all of this terminology pretty much directly translates. And so explore some of these menus, explore some of these effects and whatnot, see what you're capable of, see what ways you're capable of manipulating your work. So we've got two different types of color mixing. Actually, we've got more than two different types. This is what we call RGB, which historically is how digital art is made and viewed. It's typically made with light. And these two color mixing options, one is RGB, that's digital, and this is CMYK. That's typically used in print, anything that would come from a computer and go to a printer and be meant to look as close on paper as it does on the screen. Meaning this is typically made out of light. RGB is light mixing to create a color, and CMYK is ink or paint. And the translation is trying to get these two things lined up as closely as possible so that when you have a digital file and you print it, the translation is as minimal difference as possible. Over here, we've got light, additive mixing. So if you took a green light, a blue light, and a red light, and you brought them all up here and you started to mix them together. In the same way that when you mix all of them, you get white. So if these were flashlights, you had a green flashlight and a blue flashlight, and you shine them on top of each other, you would get the middle ground. Same with up here, green and red, you would get the middle ground. You get a yellow. As you would bring all of these together, the lights would eventually wash everything out, and you would get white. Imagine, this is a projector that I have up right now. Imagine if I took a normal flashlight and shined it on this. It would simply wash out all the color, and you would just see the white wall. This is typically how digital works are created, and typically digital works in Photoshop or whatever, if the final destination for them is something digital, it's going to be at 72 dpi. That's the resolution. That's to That's to make it large enough to be clear to see on a computer screen or phone screen, but also not taking up a lot of file size, not making it a huge file so that it's easily shareable and not taking up a lot of space and room. Over here, we've got CMYK. This is typically the physical stuff. It's what they call subtractive mixing. It's either paint or ink. This is cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. This is typically print. Anything that you would make that's going to go to print needs to be a higher resolution than the digital stuff. The digital stuff is only going to get so large. Print stuff, you want to be clear so that you can't see the pixelations and you want it to be as clear as possible. So print is typically, you start all your files at 300 DPI, which any art that you're making, I typically would start at a high DPI, pretending that everything is going to be printed. Regardless of what you're doing, I would think, is this artwork ever going to end up blown up into a huge poster on a wall or a billboard so whatever the original source artwork file is needs to be a high resolution. Then as you need the artwork for many different things, you save different versions. And each of those versions, you can have the original file that's a huge DPI, and then you save a new version that's much lower. It's much more easily shareable. You can make any number variety of files, but these are typically some color nerd tech specs that will help you in your digital art and creative journey. Next, we're going to talk about balance. We've got all kinds of different balance in your pieces, but we're going to specifically talk about two kinds. One being color balance. Whatever colors you're using, are they distributed throughout the piece? Are they meant to only be in one section? Do you have good color balance? You can easily look at something, you can easily look at your work and tell when you don't have good color balance. When you do have good color balance, it might be a little harder. You want good color balance so that your piece feels balanced overall. If your composition works but your color doesn't, it will feel off balance. If your color works and your composition doesn't, it will feel off balance. If you're trying to get good color balance, see which areas, this is a simple yin-yang. This is more so made to represent the balance part of it than anything else. But over here, there is no red at all. And that might be an intentional choice, or that might be an accident. And now I might want to say this blue dot here needs to become red in order for color balance. But it's your work. Just something to consider as you're working, color balance. The other main type of balance that we've got, composition balance. Composition balance, you're taking color entirely out of the equation. You're pretty much just trying to make sure that the overall layout of your composition makes sense, and there isn't a weird, if it isn't a weight over off to one side, or does it feel good? The composition and the color both need to be balanced, and that will help your artwork significantly. A lot of people, when they go to get started making any type of art, it's so open. They want to make something, but they don't know what to draw. They don't know what to paint. They don't know what they're going to paint on. And so a really easy way to get started is by setting creative parameters. And by that, I mean setting limits. Simple as that. What am I going to paint on? I'm going to paint on this canvas or this wood or this cardboard or whatever. I'm going to be painting on this at this size. A really, really easy way is by setting a limited color palette, by picking colors that you're going to work with before you even start working. I realize we've been talking about color already, and it probably feels like I've been talking at you a million miles a minute. And these color rules, I've been throwing a lot of them at you already, and it's hard to keep all of that in mind. I don't want that to become overwhelming. I want those to just be thoughts that you consider as you're working. However, to get started, one really easy way, something that I do a lot, is limit my color palette. And by that, I typically do what I split the color wheel into warm colors and cool colors. And now just looking at the color wheel, it's pretty easy to see where it's split, right? Yellow, orange, red, those are all warm colors. Think about warmth. They naturally evoke those colors. Yellow, orange, red. Think about fire. Red, orange, yellow. Warm colors. Cool colors over here. Purple, blue, green. Warm, exciting colors. Energy. Cool colors. Calm, relaxed. Water, nature, shadows. Warm colors, cool colors. I try to break paintings down into an exercise that I describe as cold side of the mountain. And so cold side of the mountain is literally as simple as it sounds. Whatever you're about to draw, whatever you're about to paint or make, whatever, take a warm color, yellow, a cool color, blue, and then I usually use white as a highlight. So I pick three. Those are my three colors right there. Yellow, blue, white. Warm color, cool color, white as a highlight. So think about your scene and place the sun somewhere in your screen, in your frame. Think about wherever your frame, whatever your composition is going to be, place the sun. And then think about how the sun would be hitting those objects. Think about how the sun would be hitting these mountains. Sun would be warmth on the warm side. And then the shade, the blue, would be the cold side of the mountain. So whatever you're drawing, whether it be people, landscapes, something completely abstract and made up, keep that idea in mind. Carving out something in just warm and cool, and that's it. Two sides, warm side, cool side, that's it. Carve out the whole general structure of whatever you're trying to draw. Two colors. This is a drawing I did, actually something that I did with SocialWorks last summer. This is an illustration of the Board of Trade building, downtown Chicago. This is a black and white line drawing, obviously. But down here, this is broken into the warm and cool colors as well. Yellow and blue. I have orange in here in the sky, but that's pretty much it. Look at the placement of the sun behind the statue, and look at these front-facing buildings catching the sun, the shadow coming down the street, the shadow on the cold side of these. Think of it in that direction. This is another piece. This is a piece that I did in Mexico early 2020. This is two colors: gold, blue, white, and then I actually have a white for highlights, and then I have a darker blue for the lowlights in there. But really, this is only a couple colors, and so when you think I'm only going to use these three colors, and you start your piece, you're able to stick. That automatically eliminates a lot of color decisions that you have. If you had a full color palette and you could use any color you wanted, that would open up the opportunity to use a lot more color, but it opens up a lot more choices that you got to make. And so having a limited color palette straight from the start allows you to just take those choices. It's like, okay, you go to a restaurant and there's a million things on the menu, and it's like, okay, I've never been here. Where do I even get started? I guess I got to read this whole menu right now. And if you go to a restaurant and they have three things on the menu, odds are all three of those things are going to be incredible. It's kind of the same thing with color. If you choose from the start to make it simple, it's going to be simple. And so if you limit your color palette and work from there, from those 3 colors, it instantly stylizes your work as well. Because obviously in real life, this scene would have a lot of green grass, green palm tree leaves, green in the flower stems, green over here in the foliage, and by forcing you to say no green in the entire piece, it automatically stylizes the piece. No matter how realistic I try to paint this, and this isn't super realistic, but it's pretty realistic. If I try to paint it as realistic as possible to make it look like a photograph, and I only use these colors, it would automatically be stylized. It automatically takes your work from an artistic attempt to something that's artistically stylized. And it was actually much simpler by using less colors and limiting your color palette, limiting your options before you even get started. This is an airplane. I wanted to talk about the idea of basically a travel kit. So I find myself traveling a fair amount, and I like to do art on the road. I like to make art for people that I'm staying with and leave it with them as a little thank you for letting me stay with them on my trip. Anyways, limiting your color palette like this allows for an incredible travel kit. I pretty much take 3 little tubes of paint. They're only this big. It's like 1 ounce of paint per bottle. You can take it on a plane. I pick a warm color, a cool color, and a white. And then I bring those with loose canvas rolled up. You don't even have to bring that. Pretty much anywhere you're going, you can find something to paint on, something to scribble on. But I pretty much take a little tote bag, roll up some canvases, have one wide brush, one thin brush. I have those 3 tubes of paint, and that's my whole travel kit. This painting from Mexico is exactly that. 2 brushes, 3 little tubes of paint, 1 small rolled up canvas inside of the tote bag. I flew to Mexico with it. I made this painting, flew back with it. I make a lot of them like that. That's just my travel kit. When you simplify if you're trying to travel and make art at the same time, there's a lot of supplies and equipment that you're going to want to take with you. And that simply, especially with liquids and getting on an airplane, is not going to work. So simplifying it to a point where it's easy to take in your bag. It's not going to get destroyed. That type of stuff. I think it's just important to have a travel kit, not even traveling far. Even if I wanted to just go over to Lake Michigan and post up on the beach and paint some stuff, even if I'm just going across town, it makes it nice to be able to travel with a nice light kit, and me knowing straight from the start that I'm going to be working with these colors, and whatever I do is going to be stylized in some way because of it. Anyways, translating your talents to digital art. This is huge. I know a lot of artists who are incredible artists and don't work digitally at all. I know a lot of incredible artists who are only digital artists and they don't work physically at all. They both work hand in hand with each other. If you're a good artist overall, and then you take your stuff to the computer, you've already pretty much mastered the hard part. You know what I mean? There is a learning curve with every tool that you use, and every program, every app has their different learning curve. But if you have a good eye, if you have a good if you're creative in general, if you're an artist in general, it is going to be great. Photoshop and Procreate are 2 of the most common digital programs. There's tons of tools in there. I encourage you to go through, figure out these tools, what works for you, what doesn't. The layering is huge as far as building your stuff, learning how layering works and how to layer your artwork in a digital realm is huge and will allow you to do a number of different things. Working digitally also allow you to save your stuff over and over again. Instead of having one master copy, you can save new versions of your file and change it as many ways as you want. That's a huge bonus. The terminology is pretty much a direct translation, working in digital or physical stuff. The advantages, there's a lot. I mentioned some of them, mostly being you can create many different master files. You can take your stuff to animation, which is like a huge part of it for me personally. You don't have to translate to digital entirely to be a digital artist. You can always work on paper. However, knowing especially some basics of working digitally can save you a lot of time and open your art up for a lot of options that you wouldn't have working in a traditional format. That's all. These are some coloring pages that I've been releasing recently. You can find all of them on my website, or you can DM me on Instagram and I'll send you a link. But these are black and white line drawings that already exist that you can take into Photoshop or Procreate and learn to play around with, learn to color things in, learn to, there's no pressure. These are my files that I'm sharing with you. So there's the line work is already there. There's some structure already there. You can then take these and just kind of do whatever you want. Learn how to work digitally if you like. But you can find all of those over on my website, which is juiceloops.live, www.juiceloops.live. You can find all of the coloring pages and a lot of other stuff. So creative confidence. Creative confidence in general is just you being proud of your work, you being comfortable with your work. The more stuff you create, the more comfortable you're going to feel in your own creativity, the better you're going to feel about making stuff. Creative confidence. If you leave anything today, leave with the idea of fearless creative exploration. This being, we're in a time of quarantine lockdown. There's no pressure on any artwork that you make, especially right now. You're at home, just explore creatively, figure out styles, find what works for you, find what you like. But fearless creative exploration, just get in there and start going. Now is the time. Anything that you want to do, now is the time to do it. Treat it as if it were urgent. If you're excited about some stuff, that's the time to act on it. That's the time to get the ball rolling. If you don't act when you're excited, then odds are that excitement's going to fade away and the ball might not ever get rolling on that project. So treat your projects as if they're urgent. You got to get them done now. At least get the ball rolling while you're excited. That's huge. Building creative confidence. Really, the only way to do this is just by being in there and continuously making art, continuously building your craft, refining your craft. The more that you make, the more you produce, the better you're going to get overall, the better you're going to feel about it. Critique. Talk about your work. The more comfortable you are talking to other people about your work, the better your work is going to get. Critique is not just talking about your work, by the way. It's also finding the high points, the low points, to make it better. A lot of people are not good at giving critique. They end up hurting people's feelings and basically calling out aspects of the work in a mean way, coming off as mean. Most people are also not good at receiving critique, receiving constructive feedback. So the more you talk about your work, the good, the bad, and the ugly, just have the conversations, and the more, be real with yourself. Is your work good? Be real with yourself. If it's not good, don't say, hey, this is good, this is a masterpiece. Everything that you produce doesn't have to be good. Just straight up, it's obviously not going to be good. Yep, I hear you. So creative curiosity. We're almost done, by the way. We're going to start questions in a few minutes. But creative curiosity, this is something that you should try to never lose, is just being curious. That's part of being creative overall, is being curious, exploring. Style. So you can do something and you can make stuff, but if you do it with style, people are going to remember it. People will remember you for the style, the way that you do something, more so than the actual doing it itself. Be constantly creating, bounce around mediums, keep it fresh, maintain your creative momentum. We're going to open up questions here in a second. We're running out of time. Learning to swim. This is a real quick one. There are 2 ways to learn how to swim. You could do the research and read the books and study with the best swim instructors and watch the videos and get the perfect temperature of the water. Or the second way is you could just jump in and just learn on the fly and start figuring it out. And that's with art, there's no real physical risk of like drowning with swimming. So just get in there and start doing it. Don't take it too seriously. Stumbling upon a style. This is something that I wanted to talk about. If you're exploring creatively, you're going to start finding things that work for you, things that work for your style, and you might stumble upon something that works so right for you in your situation. The right timing, the right style, the right drawings, the right ideas. You might stumble upon a style that could just work. And with social media and the internet and whatnot, anything is possible. So keep exploring, keep going through. Everything starts with self-motivation, self-love, self-confidence. The better you're feeling personally, the better your work is going to be. The work is a direct reflection of you and how you're feeling. So work on yourself, work on your work. Artists and being an artist. I've been very fortunate my whole life. Older people especially, have said, you're an artist. I'm an artist. And when you're an artist, you're allowed to be a little weird. You're allowed to make stuff. You're allowed to make things that fall outside of just normal societal norms. So remember that you're an artist, whether you actually make art or not. If you're a creative thinker, you are an artist. If you're coming up with new ways to do anything, even if it's not traditional physical painting, sculpting, drawing, etc., you are an artist. Writer's block. All artists, even the best of artists, even myself, have moments of writer's block. I like to think of writer's block, somebody falling off of a diet. It's easy to fall off of a diet and be eating junk food and not exercising. It's a lot more difficult to put in the work to get back to into healthy eating patterns, healthy exercise patterns. And it's the same thing with creativity. Artists can fall off and they can get back on. And people that have never been in shape their entire lives are capable of starting to eat healthy and starting those healthy habits. It's the same thing with creativity. Same thing. Anyways, we don't have much time left. I'm going to start this little Q&A, answer a few questions. I know we're out. Oh, here we go. Ben 5124 asks, where do you get your inspiration from? And Ben, I get inspiration all over the place, man. Anything that makes me feel good, anything that makes me feel inspired at the time. Next question. What's your favorite visual medium to work with? Oh, that just switched around. I don't know where that went. I'm sorry if I don't get to all these questions. Dang. Favorite visual medium to work with? That, I think, would be animation. Just being able to make my drawings move overall. Huge part of it. That's where I get the most excited and want to be making the most work. What is my background? That's an anonymous question. What are we talking here? My cultural heritage, my my artistic background. We're gonna skip that question. What advice? Anonymous asks, what advice do you have for people who think they can't draw? I would say get that idea out of your head and start drawing immediately. Of course, you're going to be terrible at drawing at first. The more you draw, the better you're going to get. The more time you spend with it, the more comfortable you're going to get. Just keep drawing, keep going. Don't stop drawing. Simple. Let's see. Favorite. Anonymous asks, how can I bring a still life drawing? How can I bring a still drawing to life with animation? There are actually lots of ways to do that. Any Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere, Flip a Clip, Stop Motion Studio Pro, all apps that will allow you to either, depending on what you want to do with that still life drawing, there's tons of variations, but I would definitely start working in Photoshop, After Effects, Flip a Clip, Stop Motion Studio Pro, and figuring stuff out and figuring out what works best for you and your style. Thanks. That was a great question. Let's see. What's your favorite collab with Chance that you've done? That's probably my first main project that I ever did with him, which was the making of the Good Ass Intro music video, which is the first song on Acid Rap. And that came out March 13th, 2013, so a while back. Let's see. What are some animation apps and programs that you use? I use a combination of Photoshop and After Effects a lot. That's probably what I use the most. I also use a program called TV Paint, which is probably my favorite, but also the most tedious and time consuming. And then as far as beginner level and user-friendly apps, there's a hand-drawn animation app called Flip a Clip. And then there's also an app called Stop Motion Studio Pro that allows you to make really incredible professional looking stop motion animations with just the app. It's really incredible. Next question. What's a live drawing and what's your favorite you've done? Okay, so those live drawings, and I call them live paintings, but I basically come up with a layout, I come up with a design, I come up with something that I'm going to do artistically, and I then create beforehand make a bunch of animations that will all interact with that layout of that painting. And I then create the painting live in front of a whole group of people, whatever event it might be. I've done it at music events. I've done it at fundraiser events for SocialWorks. I've done it in a variety of different ways, but I'm doing a ton of them. And I'm actually going to be doing a live stream next week with my buddy Samson. I'm going to be showing a new live painting with a lot of animations. You can catch that on my Instagram for the details. Next question. How do you set up a composition that is appealing to the eye? In that, there are a couple of basic rules, and then there are some rules that are basically circumstantial, depending on what you're making. A general rule of thumb is don't put something dead center. And, that's not necessarily a great rule because there can be compositions that work incredibly with something that's dead center. A normal rule of thirds, putting something on a line where the thirds would be in between the framing, is kind of a really easy way to step up your compositional framing. And that's one very, very basic rule that I find helps me more often than not. Have I heard of Rocketbook? No, but I'm interested. What defines your art Playfulness. the fun of it. There's a lot of other artists that are playful and fun with their stuff, but my stuff, I feel like I try to keep my art being a fun outlet, a fun escape from whatever else is going on in the real world, coronavirus, etc. I try to keep my art lighthearted and playful, and a way to keep my mind off of, the coronavirus lock-in, stuff like that. Next question. What are your favorite tools to create with? Favorite physical tools would be, I think, just classic acrylic paint, really clean, smooth, fluid acrylic paint. I usually use golden paints, the fluids, just paint that feels nice as you use it. I like using classic acrylic paint on canvas for physical mediums. Then digital mediums, I like animation. I like After Effects. I like that type of stuff. Next question. Do you have any tips for layering blend modes in a creative way? No, aside from just explore around with them. There are lots of great ways to use them. However, each, depending on what you're trying to do, depends on whether your blend mode actually works or doesn't work. So no, I don't have any particular blend mode advice other than just explore around with them. Watch some tutorials on blend modes if that's what you're really trying to figure out at the time. And just play around, figure out some stuff. You might stumble upon something that is just for you. Actually, I think we are out of time. I think that's our last question. So I hope y'all learned at least something today, something little. I'm going to play this while we're doing a little outro. Thanks everyone for watching and tuning in. I hope you learned something. See you in the next tutorial. Come again. SocialWorks.org/Sworkshops.
Yeah, we up on the jib, north side, that's the way, ready or not, here we come, S-work, keep the energy, look, yeah, we never unplug, S-work, show some love,
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Yeah, S works. Everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe. They're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together. We feeling like fam. It's all about peace. So pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Sworks. Action on Taylor, the killer verse. I do on my foot in my city hurt. They killing our babies, this war going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Running schools for the kids. With the city, yeah, we litty. All I know is to swerve. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life can be tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S-Works handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't finna none. We came in the party, we here for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Giants the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social